So, hello, I am Lisa Pritzl. This is Jason. We are both EWU graduates and geologists working in the consulting field now. And I work for MAUL FOSTER ALONGI. We have offices in Spokane, well, my home office in Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, Kellogg, Idaho, Vancouver, Portland, Lake Oswego, Seattle, Bellingham. So we've got quite a presence in the Northwest. We do a lot of remediation work, a lot of sediment work. And then our biggest client, especially with our Idaho offices, is the Coeur d'Alene Trust, where we do a lot of remediation work associated with the mining impacts in the Silver Valley. So it's a big time consumer for us, and we do a lot of work out there every year, pulling in people from all of our offices to do field work and investigations, mostly supporting the design of remediation and then construction of that. I started in consulting in 2006 before I graduated, which I was pretty lucky to snag a job that early. And I've worked for a few companies and have clients ranging from the Air Force to farmers looking at nitrate studies, and even a coffee stand owner looking for a new property to put her new coffee stand on, and it ended up being an old gas station. So the clientele is wide and it's tons of fun. Love doing it. I'll let Jason introduce himself and give you a little overview of what he does.
Yeah, so I work for a company called Budinger. You guys maybe have heard Jad talk about it. Jad does a lot of work with Budinger as well. I started working there in 2016, spring of 2016, and most of what I've gotten into involves geotechnical exploration and analysis. So, Joe Schmo wants to put up a building in downtown Spokane, and we go in there and we'll do some soil borings or test pits and evaluate the subgrade conditions and let them know if what they're wanting to build is feasible or not. We do some environmental work as well. We've got a few sites that we monitor groundwater on. Kaiser Mead up north, super fun site. We do a lot of groundwater monitoring there. And we also have a big, one of the big sides of the company is construction materials testing. So we've got a lot of inspectors that go out to construction sites and measure soil densities for road base, and they'll inspect concrete and steel structures. So it's really kind of quite a dynamic company. We do a lot of stuff. We're some professional engineers and geologists coupled with some really extremely intelligent people that have come from the construction field. So it's a neat place to work. And there's actually about 5 of us now that graduated from Eastern working for Budinger. So Eastern's kind of their fishing hole at Budinger. So who knows, we might be seeing some of you soon out there.
We wanted to give you guys some time to ask questions and maybe help lead this conversation so we get the best result out of it. Make sure that you're getting the information that you want to hear. So if you want to ask questions, let's dig into that. Otherwise, we can just spitball.
Yeah, so you guys can go ahead. Oh, sorry, Ethan. You guys can go ahead and raise your hand, or if you don't feel comfortable like asking your question verbally, you can send it in the chat and Ethan will read it out loud.
Why don't I go ahead and get the ball rolling on the questions? Actually, Jeremy, why don't you go for
it? So I had a question, and it might be, it's for both of you, but Jason might have a good answer for it. So I just joined the geotechnical investigation field myself. I was wondering, what do you usually do when a project is delayed, and how do you go about handling that?
When a project's delayed?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we just work on another project in the meantime. Really, that happened a lot this spring. There were a lot of projects that were held up, you know, with the COVID outbreak, but we're very fortunate that there were enough projects that are deemed essential, and we never really slowed down. We kind of rolled steady, you know, the whole year long, and this is the busiest winter that I've ever seen working at Budinger. But it happens a lot. You know, a project will get held up. There's one that we're working on now where we found some shallow rock where they want to put some groundwater soils, or, oh, sorry. Cat spilled the water. Yeah, that delayed this project. It's really a pretty normal thing. We see it a lot where a project will get held up, and usually what happens is, you know, the civil engineers will start talking with the city people. They'll look at what we found and recommended. They'll talk about it, and then they'll, you know, come back to us, say, hey, what about this? You know, you guys think this will work? Yeah, great. Or, you know, we keep discussing it. So kind of a common thing, but it doesn't really, you know, stop our work. Does that help answer that question?
Yeah, that's good. What about you, Lisa?
Roughly the same answer. You know, when we do get delayed for various reasons, whether it's site access or obtaining the proper permitting, sometimes it's just having access to those subcontractors. Drillers get backed up, and we saw a lot of that in the spring when we were shut down for a month. And then when things did open up and everyone started doing projects again, there was a huge push to get everything done and get caught back up again. And it was pretty hard to find the subcontractors that you needed. And we're scheduling out pretty far. But usually, you know, there's always something to fill in the gaps in between. Like Jason was saying, we didn't really ever slow down either. And we never do. Every time you think that you've got some breathing room, something comes up. So it's kind of just how consulting is. And definitely always busy.
Okay, thanks.
Good amount of job security in this aspect of the business. There's always a need for environmental and geotechnical consulting.
That's good stuff. All right, Chelsea also had a question here.
Yes. So I was wondering if you guys remember like what your senior year looked like, as in like talking to professionals and starting to line up jobs, finishing up your classes or stuff like that, just for people whose next year is going to be their senior year. Like what would be your best advice for them to get ready to go out into the professional field?
Go ahead.
I think what I would focus on is getting that ASBOC done as soon as you can. I waited, gosh, it was a year and a half, and I found myself having to relearn quite a few things in a short amount of time. You know, you think a year and a half, you know, isn't that long, but it's like, gosh, there were a lot of things that I had to review to get ready for that test. So trying to knock that off as soon as you can is a big deal, and start sending resumes out. There's a lot of different places, you know, a lot of different consulting industries, and got to get your name out there and get on some people's radar. So getting the ASBOC done and getting resumes out as much as you can. That's a big deal.
Agreed. And, you know, doing doing that networking, reaching out to people that you know that have already graduated and secured jobs, and letting them know that you're getting ready to graduate and that you're starting to look for a job. And then, you know, looking on Indeed and those sites for internship opportunities and job opportunities. You know, even reaching out to Jason and I to get some ideas of what other consulting companies are around, including ours. We'd definitely be happy to circulate your resume within our companies and help you in reaching out to others. And your professors know a lot of these other consulting companies too. I'm sure they can give you a list of Spokane ones or even nationwide ones. So I got pretty lucky in that I landed a job while I was still in school and was able to work part-time, and kind of a unique situation. And I'm very, very thankful that it worked out. It was fairly easy. But in looking for jobs as I progressed, definitely doing that networking helped a lot. Yeah. Just knowing people, and you meet other consultants as you continue with your career. So yeah, it's a small world.
Really kind of is. You know, I'm sure Chad also lets you guys know about the CVGS meetings. You know, then what's the other one? The science meetings. Yeah, I prefer the CVGS. Honestly, I find those to be more interesting to me. And there's a lot of people that go to those that are good sources for networking.
Yeah, there's a lot of consultants that go, especially to the science meetings, but sometimes to the CVGS. We're always there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait for it to be in person again.
Yeah, I know. It's like dinner and a movie, you know, you go to
and drinks.
Yeah, have a beer and have some food and watch a really neat presentation about something. It's, get to geek out, and it's awesome.
Awesome, thank you. And so there's a CV. Sorry, my dog's here with me. There's a CVGS meeting tomorrow at 7, I think.
Yeah, definitely worth checking those out. And it's unfortunate, you know, that we can't do them in person. That's really your the best opportunity for exploring some of those networking resources, but it's still good to go and discover some names of people to reach out to.
Yeah, that's something that we've been talking about in the Geology Club is, you know, actually having these networking opportunities. So again, super appreciative that you guys are here. It's good to know that we're able to reach out to you. We have another question here. A couple comments from Bill, it looks like. But let's get to Darlene's first. How do you balance your work life and home life with both of you being full-time geologists?
It's definitely unique this year. We're mostly working from home, so it bleeds one into the other, which is really hard. And the work hours are fluid. My day is not 9 to 5 anymore, or 8 to 4, or whatever. It's definitely harder now to be, you know, at work or at home and have that mentality. So we're not leaving work at work anymore, but not that we did anyway, because we talk about our projects a lot at home. It's a long conversation at the end of the day. We kind of download about what we're doing and what projects we're excited about, and even troubleshoot together, which is really nice. It's great to have someone who also does what I do, and very similar at least. And so we get to knock ideas off of each other and brainstorm, and that's fun. And we geek out a lot too, but definitely hard. We do some traveling too. So, you know, in normal situations, trying to balance work and home life, sometimes you have to get creative about it and accept those out of town jobs, and it makes you happy to be home when you get to be, but always a good experience to travel a little and see new sites and find solutions to new problems. So
yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I got her into trap shooting, so we'll go out to the gun club every now and then and blow clay targets up, and that's it's a big stress relief.
And golf.
Yeah, and golf.
I don't know if that's a stress reliever or a stress inducer though.
It's, you know, most of these companies that you find, they're all operated by professionals that have families themselves, and they understand, you know, when someone like, hey, you know, at Budinger, for example, if I'd say, hey, I need next Friday off to do whatever, I've never been tried to they've never tried to talk me into, you know, working on a day that I've already asked for time off on and been approved. So it's you know, it's good that way. Not like jobs I've had in the past where it's like, you're not getting that day off, we got to get this done. Just haven't experienced that, you know, after starting working for Budinger. So I think you'll find that most companies will let you have that time that you ask for, and they're not going to fight you on it. They want you to be happy and support your family life, and they don't want you to quit on. So I don't think you'll find it'll be really kind of up to you. You know, these companies will say, hey, you want to work 70 hours a week? Great. Yeah. If you're only, you know, if you can only do 40, okay. There's some flexibility there. And
to elaborate on that point with MAUL Foster, we had a policy in place where we could work from home when we wanted to. And it was always really nice to be able to have that flexibility when we needed to. If you had an appointment or if you just wanted to not commute as much. We live in Spokane, and my office is in Coeur d'Alene. And so I was able to work from home just 1 or 2 days a week always, because I would cut down on my commute. And that was understood that it was just easier on me and less stress to have to commute every day. So I can do what I need to do from home. You know, with the COVID thing though, that's kind of changed the game. So everybody's working from home, but as we've started to open up offices again, a lot of us have elected just to stay working from home, and not having the commute the last year or so has been really nice, and no one wants to go back to that. So I think that most companies are good about it. And I think that after, you know, what we've experienced in 2020 and whatever happens in 2021, we are changing the way we work and changing how we juggle work and home life. And I think that we're going to see that change carry on into the future.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting for everybody to see how things carry on in the future. I got a couple more questions here. I kind of want a follow-up question real quick though. With you guys talking about your work days at the end of the days and discussing the different projects and whatnot, I'm curious, with your office being in Idaho and Jason, you in Spokane, are there any big differences that you see between the two states and your respective companies?
Well, our outfit, we do a lot of work in Idaho. We've got jobs going on there right now, some in Montana, some in Oregon. So it's, and we've actually have an office in Hayden, but I just haven't even been to yet. So I couldn't tell you exactly where it's at, but yeah, as far as, you know, differences, I don't really see any.
There's definitely regulatory differences. Washington so it's run by Department of Ecology is really who sets those guidelines for us. And then Idaho is DEQ, and they follow more of an EPA-based and risk-based assessment and cleanup standards. There are definitely big differences when you start to do remediation and work through remediation projects and voluntary cleanup programs and things like that. Those are pretty big differences. I don't know about geotechnical regulations, but definitely environmental. There's huge differences.
The only thing that we really get into is when we're recommending some fill materials, for example. Like when we look at, if we're in Washington, we refer to WashDOT and Washington State Department of Transportation, and then if it's in Idaho, it's ITD, the Idaho Transportation Department. So, our reports just, have, it's all the same material, but we just reference a different manual. So as far as the work itself, it's still the same rig, drilling the same kind of holes, things like that. And then we just reference particular manuals depending on where we're at. So there's a lot of research that goes on, at that point when you're writing a report. It's like, oh God, I'm in Oregon. Gotta remember all these other manuals that I'm supposed to be referencing here. So that's kind of as much change that I see between the states. It's all still the same kind of work, going about it the same way.
Cool. We got a couple questions here. I'm kind of going to lump these two together a little bit because they're a little bit similar. Darlene and Eric want to know, one, what was the transition like from the classroom to actually being a working geologist? And if there are learning curves there, and if there were courses that you wish you would have taken, or that you would suggest taking that would help with that transition.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was finishing up, I never took soils and I never took hydro, and those are probably the two classes that I could that would be the most beneficial to me right now. But they were electives, and when I wanted to take them, it conflicted with the required class. And it's like, oh God, I got to knock these required classes out. And then by the time I was, at a point where I could take them, I had enough credits to graduate, and said, okay, well, I'm gonna go to work. So I definitely recommend the soils and hydrogeology, especially if you want to get into, even environmental stuff, geotechnical consulting. Absolutely. Probably the two most important classes I could think of that I never even got to take. So.
Yeah, and I have to say, not to dig at you, but those are the two that I use the most. Besides mineralogy and petrology, hydro and soils are definitely the two that I find I go back to the most.
Yay, mineralogy and petrology.
Oh, I had to put that plug in there for you, Jenny.
And your English classes, that's a big deal because at Budinger, our reports, that's our product. So you need to know how to write well. It's very important quality to this business. So don't take those English classes for granted, and get everything you can. Maybe a technical writing class be helpful.
And learn Excel. If you don't already know, do it.
Yeah, Excel's a big one.
And it's one of those ones where I feel like I learn something new on it every week. There's just so many little nuances, but Excel's important. It's something that we use every day, and especially knowing how to do equations in Excel, it's really nice.
Yeah. algebra and trigonometry, most practical math I could think of. Very important stuff there.
Yeah, I remember the first time that you guys came, you had mentioned the hydro and soils classes. So it makes sense that those would be big ones. Dr. Warndorf has a question, speaking of soils, and it's actually, yeah, the GIS certs. How much do your companies use GIS? And do you think those are valuable skills for students seeking jobs at envirotechs and geotechs to have?
Definitely. 100% of my projects use GIS. We make a figure for every single project we do, whether it's just a simple figure or if we're actually mapping things, mapping features, mapping rock types, mapping the extent of a contamination plume. We're out there with GPS all the time. We're using that with drone technology too. So it's definitely important. We have a whole GIS department at MAUL Foster and hire people who just have GIS certificates or degrees with a GIS emphasis. And it's definitely something that makes you more marketable and a skill that you will continue to use.
Yeah, I remember when just getting done with school, and I didn't go right from Eastern to Budinger. There was about 1.5 years in there that I'd worked as a ditch digger for a construction company, running a broom, and do what you got to do to get the bills paid. But while I was looking for jobs, I remember looking at places for the city of Spokane and the county, and there are a lot of positions available looking for people with those GIS skills. So another good class to focus on.
And I'm just curious, I'm going to piggyback on that a little bit. Do both of your companies use ARC, or are they using different programs for their GIS?
Most of what, like at Budinger, I go out and do a project. Our figures, involve a vicinity map, a site plan, and then of course our boring test pit logs, lab summaries. So I'm using AutoCAD often. Well, for every project, drafting a big map and a site plan. But it's we do have some people that we refer to for more special cases where the GIS be more beneficial to the project. Travis Stevens works for us, and he graduated from Eastern a little while ago. And I think him and Chad, didn't you guys work on something recently, Chad, I think it was for the city?
Oh yeah, for the stormwater drainage. We had Aaron Cleveland worked on that, and Travis.
Yeah,
Travis just was on a paper for the Deer Trail group, uranium lead. Woo.
Oh, cool.
He was a McNair scholar. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, we worked with Budinger quite a bit with GIS, even the GIS program, like the Brian Buchanan and Stacy Warren from geography, but we'll soon be part of the Department of Geosciences.
Cool.
Next fall.
Yeah, we use both as well, ArcGIS and AutoCAD. It just really depends on the application.
Cool. Yeah. Well, this next question kind of rolls into that fairly well. And interesting too, because we have lots of environmental science majors right now as well. Do you know what the major differences are on hiring potential employees that have environmental science with an emphasis in geology versus people that just have their their geology degree?
I don't know. We've got Kayla got her BS geology, but I think she also had the environmental science side of it. Honestly, more like Budinger, they're hiring geologists to do engineering work. Really what they're getting. They're turning us into geotechnical engineering geologists. So there's more focus on the engineering side. Really, they just want smart people. You know, if you have an environmental science degree with some emphasis on geology, I think you still stand the same chances as getting a job as someone with just a Bachelor of Science in geology. Like I said, it's just, you know, these companies are looking for people that are capable of abstract thought, that can take on the tough subjects and do well. It's just these degrees speak volumes of your intelligence. So that's really, at the end of the day, what these companies are after.
And I can say it's very similar at MAUL Foster. The hiring that I've been involved with, we're not looking at somebody with an environmental science degree and saying, oh, well, we prefer somebody with a geology degree. They're similar enough that they're both useful, and you know, those geology things can be taught and learned, and it's your training is going to be specific to your company and what your position is actually going to be. So just having that good base is really what you need. And I don't feel like there's an advantage from one to the other, but the double majors also, I mean, you can't go wrong.
Lisa and Jason, can I ask a quick question about follow up on that?
It's really quiet. Can you speak up?
Okay, can you hear me now?
It's a little better.
Okay. I don't know why it's not working properly. Okay. So students just get the BS in geology. Typically, they don't have the actual classes to take the ASBOG exam. Does some of that experience working for environmental consulting companies count towards the ASBOG exam? Do you know some environmental science students who have actually been able to take the ASBOG exam after a few years?
I'm not sure.
I don't think so. You know, I've got a few coworkers who are just straight environmental science degree holders, and they're not able to take it. And if you get on the ASBOG website, at least the last time that I have, when I was looking for her 2 years ago, we couldn't find a way around it, because you really do need some of those classes that are required. And you have to have, you know, so many hours of those geologic based classes. And those things change. And, you know, ASBOG reevaluates those things from year to year. So I think it's definitely something to watch and look into. And you can email them as well, or email the Washington chapter. They're great about answering questions.
So you haven't seen your companies hiring geology students with a geology BS over an environmental science BS?
No. Okay. No, they're equally hireable. Okay. And hired.
Okay, great to hear.
Yeah, I think that'll put a lot of people at ease. And then I'm gonna skip one question real quick. I'll get right to it, but I think this rolls into what you were saying about just the importance of holding a degree in general. And Matthew wants to know if either of you have experienced imposter syndrome when starting your careers, or even in the middle of your careers, and how you combat it.
What is it?
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome.
So if I understand this right, I actually just read something about this. Maybe we read the same article that popped up in your Facebook feed this last week. But I mean, definitely there are times where you take on a project, or you end up in a room with people that have, you know, 10 or 20 years more experience than you, and you're trying to hang and trying to learn really quickly. And definitely it's a feeling that happens, especially when you're around brilliant people all day long. And I think just reassuring yourself that you've done the work and that you've earned your spot and you're still learning. Everyone is. Learning is a lifetime process. So reassuring yourself that you are capable and that you will learn those things if you don't already know. But you're not an imposter.
No, I think you answered that well. And Jason, I'll just elaborate on it. It's just kind of the idea that, you know, despite having your geology degree or whatever it may be, and having the, you know, certifications, still not feeling like you're up to par, you know, getting hired as a new geologist, but not feeling confident in yourself, essentially, to actually be holding that position. Essentially just kind of comes down to a confidence thing, you know, more or less. But
I totally understand what's being asked now. And there's been quite a few times at Budinger where, you know, I've been asked to fill a role at times that I feel is over my head. But one of my closest friends, who I also graduated with, Rex Lloyd, we have a saying, when you feel like you're being thrown to the wolves or asked to do something you're not exactly sure of how to do, we got to fake it till we make it.
Yeah.
Well, that's just the way it goes sometimes. Yeah. You're asked to step in for a principal engineer at a meeting with the city because he just can't be there, but somebody's got to be there. So he kind of, please, can you help me here? And you find a way to get it done. It's scary sometimes, but when you pull it off and nail it, it's an extremely rewarding feeling. Like, wow, how the hell did I make that happen?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I think finding a mentor too and really leaning into that relationship is a really good way to keep that confidence up and to learn and to understand how to work through problems and you know, where to find answers. So whether it's the company that you are working for has a mentor assigned to you, or someone that you just click with within that company, or even someone that you graduated with, or maybe even an old professor that you still talk to and can help you.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and I know that I tell my classmates that, you know, Chad, he asked me my freshman year if I wanted to hop on a project, and I had no confidence in it, but I just said yes, and try to encourage lots of people to just jump into things, jump in feet first.
Yeah.
You'll probably swim.
Yeah, it's well, that's how I felt just going back to school. You know, I was 32 when I went back to school. I mean, that's scary. Been out of school so long, and it's like, oh, I gotta do this. Yeah, you just gotta go for it.
Dr. Thompson wanted to add a little bit something to that. If you want to, go ahead, Dr. Thompson.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I just wanted to add something. The phrase imposter syndrome has been around for a very long time, and I think it stemmed from the world of academia and struggling for faculty members to attain tenure and be confident in their research and so forth. And it's more prevalent among women than men. I think that things have changed considerably, and you guys really shared some good things. If you're asked to do something, just stand up to the challenge and don't be afraid to ask for help wherever you can. If you feel that you're stumbling on something, you know, and that's what networking is all about as well. You can keep in touch with your formal faculty, networking with students, and but that's not a phrase that's uncommon in science fields in particular. I don't know if my colleagues would agree with me, but there you have it.
Yeah, a lot of your professors have also experienced imposter syndrome and maybe still do. So it's a pretty common among faculty too.
Yeah, very, very true. In fact, I have a couple of books on the imposter syndrome in academia. I don't know if I still have them, but been around for a long time.
Jeremy, I'll get to you in just a second. I passed over a question earlier. And you two have both been, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what you think about this. Where do you think the future of geology is heading as we transfer away from petroleum, and what geology fields do you think will become most prevalent?
We had a company meeting about this recently, just looking at business development and petroleum and looking into the future. We do a lot of that kind of brainstorming and future planning, just so we have a finger on the pulse of it as we move forward, and discussed, you know, what it's going to be like as we do transition out of petroleum-based fuels and into alternative energies. And, you know, really there is so much cleanup work to do already, because of the impacts that those fossil fuel usages have on our environment, that you know, we don't see that expertise fading out, or the need for that expertise fading out anytime soon. You know, definitely over the next maybe even century. But we also anticipate that there's going to be a big uptick in that as gasoline stations are turned into something else as they're shut down and USTs are taken out of the ground and contamination is discovered as those things are happening. So as we transition, we're going to see an uptick in cleanup as we decommission those fossil fuel stations and refineries and pipelines. Have not.
Yeah, it's kind of forever work, really. And you know, and the geotechnical side of things is very similar. You know, these cities are expanding, and you know, they're not making land anymore. So as long as buildings are going up, borings are going in. So a lot of job security on both the environmental and geotechnical side. Hard rock, the hard and soft rock side of things, it's, you know, peaks and valleys. It depends on how the market's doing. There was, I think it's half of our class when we graduated, you know, went down to New Mexico or Wyoming, and they all, you know, started off making some pretty killer money, like 70 to 80,000 bucks a year just starting. But you know, look what happened. The bottom fell out, and they didn't have jobs anymore. I think Rex didn't even make it a year or so, and he got laid off. But yeah, that's a tough one to play, the mining.
Yeah, I think if you were going into the petroleum industry, your job is iffy. Definitely know a lot of people who are geologists that work in the industry, but drillers as well, and people who are working over in North Dakota, that their jobs are just on again, off again, and it's really intermittent and not something that you can completely rely on. If you're in the environmental remediation industry, though, that's a completely different story. I mean, we've got work for so long, unfortunately.
Never ending.
Yeah, well, it's just so sad to think about all the cleanup.
Yeah.
Job security indeed, though.
Yep.
Darlene's asking, what's your favorite aspect of your job on a day?